Okay, welcome everyone. We're live. We're down here on River Walk. So if you're not familiar with Chicago, you've kind of got the bridges at a little bit higher level. And then just on the other side of this wall here is where Bernie Bridges works with all of her homeless. Quite a bit of homeless just right here on the other side. Bernie Bridges is out on her bridge on the Kennedy today talking about working with the Spy Ring in Congress. So we've got that Spy Ring in Congress shirt. Bernie Bridges will sell you a Spy Ring in Congress shirt. If you want a Spy Ring in Congress shirt, Bernie Bridges is your girl. So here we are with Task Force. I know it's going to be a little bit windy down here by the river, but it's worth it. If you're over here, Task Force, I think we're good. And then you can speak right into the microphone here. So let's just go through a couple of the, well, first of all, congratulations on your success today. Today, I know how it feels to be, well, don't be humble. I know how it feels to be in the middle of a story, and then when the story goes big, this happened with me with the hard drives. I think you're having your hard drives moment, where you go for 200 days, people don't believe you. For you, it was a little bit shorter, it was about 4 months. Right. But then vindication came today when people did discover that Andy did have a house in Chappaqua.
Right. Yeah, I think, just putting all the research in, there's a lot of documents and stuff that you're trying to weed out and figure out what's most important. And you stumble upon something like that, and you tried it. I've tweeted it, I've sent it,
to about 1,000 different people.
So many people. I sent it to directly people inside Washington, D.C.
Insiders.
Yeah, insiders, and also congressmen. I've given sticky notes. I've made contact. I've done everything.
We were in Devin Nunes's office when we...
Yeah, I did a sticky note. But long before that, right after I found it, I sent all kinds of information inside, and you don't get a lot of traction out of it, or people don't believe it could be possible. And then when it breaks into something big, it's like, just that your research, it works. In the end, the research pays off, and the most important part is the truth, and that's what we're all about. So. And
she's very humble about it, and wants to credit Thomas Paine really for verification, because it's really those FBI agents that have retired that want the best for the FBI that really do kind of make the story, because they verify it, they make sure that the truth is going out there, and it kind of is that final fact check. Not from just regular people who are press kids who want to get to the next self-congratulatory. Oh, by the way, we're right under Trump Tower here. Not just those kids, but real intelligence service professionals who can say, yes, this is exactly what happened. And this is, they're trying to bury it already, right? They're trying to bury the story already.
It seems like that, and I give a shout out to Thomas Paine for putting it out there, but also to Robin Gritz, and I'm going to mention her name. She's the one that has stood up against Andy McCabe. Go to her page.
We have a spokesman out there, a hate spokesman.
Yeah,
seems like.
Go to Robin Gritz GoFundMe and support her and in her battle as she's taken on the system. Thomas Paine's another guy that's been a part of that.
And I wanted to say about Robin, she's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to go away. She's going to be a part of the solution, she's going to, and I don't want to say too much more on that. So let's go to the bombing. Most people don't know we have a raging bombing campaign right now. They think there's Trump sitting on his hands.
Right, well, there were Navy fighter jets, whatever, were sent, and they bombed a bunch of what was originally called Taliban synthetic labs, which is basically where you're, taking the opiates and processing them in those areas, and then it's kind of come out more
in Afghanistan.
In Afghanistan, right?
Now, this is Western Afghanistan or Eastern Afghanistan?
I'm not sure about which exact locations, but it's come out, more and more who's really running those labs, and where is that stuff coming from? And
it's Catholics in action.
Right.
The damn Catholics again are running these drug labs in Pakistan.
Right. You wouldn't think the Taliban would necessarily have the resources to create a lab.
Wait, I think it's the Cars International Inc.
Right.
Cars International Inc. has got. I did not realize they had the resources
to create labs.
To create labs. Yeah, that's quite amazing. So now, do you think that Trump will just keep the bombing campaign going while he's kind of keeping the world in suspense about what he's going to do on the other? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Trump's one of his main things was the opiate the problem here in this country, and this is a big part of the story that people don't understand of how the opiates, where they're coming from, how it's being synthesized in different labs, and where that's occurring, and why bombs might be dropping on the labs to stop the opiates from coming in and killing American people.
And that's been really covered up. I mean, we really haven't had a lot of coverage on that, to be honest. You really have to dig. There are some like Navy Times and people. I mean, it's hard to send kids, up into war, and the moms are all like, oh, I don't know, and the grandmothers and the dads and the brothers and everything. It's hard not to be honest. It's going to show up. There's a lot of satellites up there. You're going to see the bombing, anyway, I'm just seeing the comments for the first time. They're close enough. So yeah, we'll try to get to comments as we go. So a couple other stories. What do you want to cover? A couple other stories that seem to come to mind.
The only other thing I would say is that we tried to cover earlier, and we didn't get a chance to. It wouldn't load about the soldier. We were out in Daly Square and Plaza Square, yeah. And a soldier who has served his country in Afghanistan, just a hero and a patriot, who has followed George from the first days, came up and said, "Hey, Scrunchy," recognized George, and we got a chance to shake his hand.
He knew you too, though. He knew Task Force. He knew
at least knew my voice. So, yeah, so it was a great chance to meet him. And we asked him what we could do better, what would be most helpful, and he said, "You need to have a Chicago whistleblower Sunday like you do in D.C. because there's some whistleblowers that want to talk." So
now I am quite shocked that we have not had a ROM siren, a rambulance. A lot of people are calling it the rombulance. We have not had a rombulance since we've been down here. Now Rom's got to get out of the city at some point, doesn't he? I mean, do you think it'll be by fire truck, with that booster seat, or do you think it'll be a rambulance, a rombulance?
There's probably going to be lots of diversions, right? You might have a rombulance going one way with a fire truck and a booster seat going another way, and all different diversions, so no one can really follow the path.
Rom, we're pretty close to State and Lake, so if you want to try to get the Bitcoin, we still are. Now we hear Mark Zuckerberg may be delivering a lot of Bitcoin, hand delivering a lot of Bitcoin in Congress today. What is your take on? You watched a little bit of the testimony. What's your take?
I watched the testimony mostly yesterday on the Senate, and my take was, first of all, that when they did the statistics of how many of the people questioning Mark Zuckerberg had actually taken cash from Mark Zuckerberg or Facebook's company, it's a little hard to question and fire off appropriate questions. And you can look at Thomas Paine's article on that, fire off tough questions about what's happening with data and the selling off of data when you're actually taking money from the company.
Yeah, I think it was like 30 or 40 senators had taken, and almost all the judiciary had taken money from him, and a like big chunks of money, like $500,000 chunks, right before he goes on to the Senate testimony. As like, they're not even separating pay to play with the conjunction to. They're just pay play. It's almost like one word now in Washington. And I'm kind of glad I'm out of Washington, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's actually wonderful to be out here with the people these are the great people, great American patriots, whether they're veterans or Bernie Bridges or just, people that are trying to do what's right by our country and get it back to the rule of law and ethics and morality and all of that.
Now the big news is we knocked out Paul Ryan of the he's retiring. I think he knows the Racine story's coming. We're still going to do the Racine story, Paul, because it's bigger than you, but Paul Nellen now becomes the front runner in that race. So I think our time in Milwaukee was well spent. What are your thoughts on Paul Ryan?
Yeah, well, I think it's a little, it's probably shocking everyone that he's deciding to resign. Not shocking to me for
Are you ready to drop your connections between Paul Ryan and Andy McCabe yet, or are you? No?
No, I think we're going to go to Racine and we're going to do some investigating there and different information that we have. And,
that may be the go signal to start sending ambulances in all directions. That may be your go signal. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just think we're going to go to spend some time in Racine and tell some stories that need to be told, or at least get some information out there that people can start doing some research, because racing is a big, important part of what's going on in our country.
Well, just like Hull House, my objective isn't to make any judgments. It's just to go to the places, film around it, show the metadata, and then people come up with all kinds of stuff. Now, I hear Hull House is going to be moved over. Oh, okay. We don't know that for sure. Okay. So, all right. Well, we're going to leave that. So what other news you want to cover? There's probably a couple more senators, a couple more congressmen that won't be running for re-election.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people just are out of the blue, not wanting to run for re-election. And it's going to be very curious to find out their reasoning, which I think will come out at a later date and time, about why they chose or were asked to please not run.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to take questions here for a second as our Chicago cab goes by, our Chicago water taxi. And, I want to say a little bit about, Bobby Rush. Bobby Rush was commenting with Mark Zuckerberg, and we've been in a couple of different Senate meetings where people will mention COINTELPRO, and they'll say, oh, COINTELPRO, and we don't run that anymore. And we always have a chuckle on that one. That's what Hillary restarted with Andy McCabe in 1998. You're going to find that this whole process that we've been talking about, McCabe, maybe not Rahm Emanuel because he comes in a little bit later, but the whole thing with P-TECH and the whole thing with Mueller was to cycle up. Sibel Edmonds has reported a lot on this. I don't know why anybody else doesn't, but to cycle up and restart COINTELPRO, much, much more surveillance. Much more surveillance from the sky. That's our NGA. That's why we talk so much about the NGA. That's why the Larry Klayman suit for me, that's why we created a playlist for NGA, because it's not only about the metadata of you making a phone call while you're walking up and down Riverwalk, but it's actually geolocating you here and then being able to go back with a D-Wave type computer, a quantum type computer, and actually replay your life. Replay your life, see where you were every minute of the day. Now, I believe in the criminal justice information system that's in Clarksburg, Tennessee, that's run by a guy named Burrell, who was in the Washington field office, the counterintel office, with all of his friends like Sean Henry and Adrian Hawkins, and of course Andy McCabe and Bill Priestap here in Chicago. They actually have a D-Wave, and they can reconstruct any person walking along here and their time. Okay, so all murders could be solved today. They just don't want to let on that they have this time capability. Burrell's company is called Temporal Data Systems. So that's what it's all about. So anyway, I'm going to take a few questions here as we go. And if you can think of any other news items. What am I aware of? Do all caps. What am I aware of? Somebody has said it's somebody's history. Temporal Data Systems, yes. That's Burrell's company. We have a spokesman for Andy McCabe that we normally see at this point along the way, who's using every possible federal agency to point out the fact that I was correct with the diplomatic cover, the diplomatic containers shipping their uranium games, Uranium One, as well as other games. Silvas. Okay, so I think that may be it. I normally can expound a little bit more, but I'm trying to be a little bit more focused on news items. Oh, is AIM legit? I really don't want to comment on that other name there that I saw. I think I'll just say this. One thing about being with Task Force, and we had a lot of good conversations with Thomas Paine, a lot of good conversations with Robin Gritz. We're all really trying to focus on the spiring in Congress, okay? Those are the people that are taking the freedom from everyone that runs by here. Those are the people that are doing the surveillance of everybody that runs by here, everybody that walks above, well, everybody that's down below, right? So everyone has an interest in that. Everyone has an interest in people finding out about things like Task Force did. about Andy McCabe having a 20-year spying history, using all the resources of the federal government to destroy people's lives that got in their way, threaten people, business executives, even threaten the presidency of a duly elected president. So we're all in that together, okay? That's our focus. Our focus should not be on the investigating the investigators. So I'll just say that in general. Quinn Michaels, I love Quinn Michaels. I really want to, I've never talked to him, but I want to talk to him. And I think we'd have a pretty good laugh of the show he did the other day. I only wish I could tell Quinn, I know exactly how you feel with the person that's making your life miserable. And I don't know how to make that not happen, because he's done that with me for most of my life. So I want the best for him, and I hope he doesn't want to be a spokesman for McCabe the rest of his life. He's certainly sending in a 21-page dossier to the Port of Charleston. Certainly wasn't, he thinks, oh, that's going to be bad. No, the city of Charleston has sealed the records of the high radiation reads by their own admission. Chris Whitaker of the JTTF, U.S. Coast Guard. Hey, bring it on, Chris. Let's go for discovery. Let's talk about those containers. Let's talk about the Awans. Let's talk about the Awan shipping. As a matter of fact, let's go through all the bills of lading that our group has come up with.
Absolutely,
let's go through all the bills of lading that you've been a part of. Let's go through all your communications to your different JTTF buddies. Let's get the JTTF communications of Freitag when he was up in New York with Andy. Let's get the communications with Freitag between him and Freitag when he came down to Virginia. Let's bring it all out. Let's have a Dave, go crazy. Sue me in 20 different states. As long as you're going to include JTTF as one of the parties, I'm in like hog heaven. I'm almost like James Alefantis, so bring it on. So that's my comment there. So I love Quinn Michaels. I think Quinn just doesn't know me and doesn't know the other party very well. Once he gets to know us a little bit better, I think he'll be my biggest fan, like I already am his biggest fan. He's a tremendous person. I still think there's hope for some other people. I have to admit I'm losing hope. I've tried so much. I don't know what else to say about those other people. And who was the other person that they wanted me to comment on? Oh, AIM. Well,
everyone has I look at it as everybody has their own part in this, and the more time that people spend trying to go against each other is the less time you're focused on what the problem is, and that is the spying in Congress, the opioids coming in, the COINTELPRO, the targeting of great FBI agents and law enforcement officers who are trying to do the right thing. That has to be the focus, not who's telling the story. All of us are part of it.
Right.
Researchers are all equal in this.
Right.
That's the focus.
Focus, yeah. And let's leave it at that. Focus is the key as we say goodbye. Now, remember, here's my last tip. If you come down here, don't get on this $60 thing. Even though, unless you really want the architectural tour or something, you're an architect, But I mean, I can point at that ugly black box or that thing that looks like an encrusted seashell or whatever and say that's bad. That's Bauhaus. And that's not Bauhaus, B-A-U-H-U-H-A-U-S. That's Bauhaus, B-O-W-H-O-U-S-E. Bad, bad, bad. And I can look at that and say, hey, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's not.
Take the water taxi.
Take the water taxi. It's $9, and then say, oh, I forgot to get off at Chinatown. I got to go back. And then let's see. We're getting a lot of comments, and our audience is getting bigger and bigger. So let's answer some comments. Geez. Billy Goat Tavern. We just went to Staten Lake. Staten Lake, what'd you think of it? Staten Lake.
Staten Lake was great.
At the DeWitt?
Awesome,
The DeWitt?
Yeah, awesome service, and yeah, it was great. It's a great place to go. So I give it 4 stars.
Give it a 4 stars? Okay.
Maybe 5.
And what's right there is the theater district, Siskel and Ebert, and then Fields, Marshall Fields, and off Broadway. So if you haven't been to Chicago's Little Broadway, I think it's right there on Lake Street.
Yeah.
At Staten Lake. I mean, state's easy to remember because Chicago's not a state, but Illinois is. Oh yeah, Bernardine Dorn. I had not done any research on Bernardine Dorn. I'd done a little bit on Bill Ayers, but they weren't actually professors at University of Chicago.
Yes,
No. I was there, University of Illinois at Chicago, which is two different things, and there's two different medical centers.
Yes.
So I did not know that. I thought they were University of Chicago. So that was good. So I think we are going to leave it at that. A lot of good comments coming through. We got a lot more people this time. Let's just take a couple of random things like, let's say hacking teams. Let's do hacking teams for a second. Okay. So that we had a UN hacking team of 12.
Right.
Now, do you think that's Huma's hacking team at the UN, or do you think that's Samantha Power's hacking team that Trump threw out?
Well, you would think that it's probably connected to Samantha Power since she was at the UN. She was the UN, our representative there.
Yeah. So 260
request by her to unmasking by someone who's not on the Security Council. As far as I'm aware, I don't think the ambassador.
So Samantha Power doesn't have a security clearance?
No. She probably has a security clearance, but I don't believe the ambassador at the UN sits on the National Security Council. I could be wrong about that. But
no,
they don't.
For her
to ask for 260 unmaskings is like mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, you would wonder. This thing's so ugly. I want to go over here more toward Trump Tower, so you want to come over here more. 260 unmaskings. This is the big story. Now, do you think Mark Meadows, representative? Now, sometimes they gun their engines when they're drug dealers for wrong. Gun your engine if you're a drug dealer for wrong. I was just going to say, I think that the Awans have followed Rahm the most, because Rahm came in as a representative in 2004, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure where. I just know he was in the White House with Bill Clinton, and then
and that's when but the Awans were down in Florida before that, from 2000 to 2004.
Right.
But the team that it seems like there's a different team. The Russians were in New York to help Hillary with Andy. At that little retreat out in whatever the heck that island is.
Right, the scary trip to the woods we took.
Oyster Bay, Oyster Bay, whatever that. No, that was the one in Maryland.
Oh, okay.
But there was an Oyster Bay one. It wasn't quite out as far as Oyster Bay. It was on. Wasn't as far as Oyster Bay. It wasn't as far as East Egg. So I wish the comments would stay up longer because I can't read them that fast. But. Mogi. I think all the bears. What's really going to become a national pastime are the bears, the CrowdStrike bears. It's going to be like the Berenstain Bears. It's going to be like the what were those bears that? Yeah, those were the Berenstain Bears too. Bears, right. Yeah, and then there was the what there Bad News Bears.
Bad News Bears.
The CrowdStrike Bears is going to become a national pastime, with people trying to do the lineups on how many were on each hacking team. Oh, I know what I wanted to say, because this didn't come in before. I was a part of McAfee, and we got acquired, and here's a nice little boat coming by, and we had a hacking team of 12 come from Moscow, and these were all the cyber weapons guys, and that was a team of 12 in Santa Clara, and Dmitry Alperovich, who is in the center of all this Pinchuk and Prokhorov and Deripaska and all these criminals that basically got suits put on them, and then they called them oligarchs, and then they started calling them billionaire oligarchs, but they're basically FSB criminals, right? They're Hillary's FSB criminals. Well, they basically they took over the whole company. They hacked everybody out of the company. They threw everybody out after a quarter. We all were, they faked everything. It was just a crime time. Dmitry Alperovich ran that whole show. And this whole group is run by Dmitry Alperovich. All these CrowdStrike bears are all his hacking teams. So everything that CrowdStrike has written about, as far as hacking teams, F-Secure has written about, which is a kind of a spin-off of CrowdStrike, and is all from that old McAfee, these groups. The whole model was proven in McAfee, which is bring over a bunch of Russian hackers, have them hack above your people so that your people will go higher and higher into the hierarchy. Threaten everybody with soft power. I call it, Hillary came out with soft power. Yeah. Soft power is basically, if you don't listen to Andy, and we got a Underground Railroad film of you with a 14-year-old Ukrainian girl, well, it's either that or, we want a seat on your board or whatever, whatever kind of compromat that we can run. And what I love about your story was that it's the beginnings to understand that our country has been compromised for the last 20 years.
Yeah, at least.
This operation, well, yes, that's true. But I'm just saying, as far as Andy McCabe is concerned,
right,
this operation of compromise has been going on for 20 years.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so longer, everybody says longer. Yes, longer. But I'm talking about Andy. I'm talking about Andy and Hillary. Okay, right now. Okay, we're going to leave it right there, everybody. Thanks for making Chicago. Yes, we are going to Racine. I want to film it. Everybody talks about judges going in the river, police captains going in the river, police officers going in the river, witnesses going in the river. Why doesn't anybody throw anybody off a roof? I guess it's because of DNA. Right. DNA. You get rid of the DNA if you throw them in the river.
Well, there's something to that, but yeah.
The river was bigger in Wisconsin than I thought it would be. Yeah, the Milwaukee River is a lot bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah, it is. So for some reason, it seems to be the preferred choice nowadays. Is people. It's not funny.
Well, I was three went in the Potomac when I was recording from the Potomac. 3 went in the Potomac. So anyway, there's something in the way there, and I'm going to try to get it out of the way. I guess it's just making the camera, fat finger the camera. Okay, we're going to wave to the Chicago Tribune for that great article in 2005 about Imran Awan reading everybody's schedules and reading all the PDF documents for 8 different people in Congress, and we're going to be very impressed with him now that he's up to, what is it?
40 something.
Well, they said 45, and here's where I get in an argument with Luke, because it's like, no, that's just what the police report said.
Right.
This has been going on 16 years. I think it's been not only the House, but I think there's a hacking team also on the Senate side. I think that's the Fancy Bears. I think the Cozy Bears were on the House side, and this is all going to come out. Suschin is going to be the leader of the pack for the Senate side, and the Imran was kind of, and all those guys were the runners to go change all the stuff. And we'll outro here in Chicago with the beautiful Chicago River.
That we're not going to be swimming in soon.
That we're hopefully not going to be swimming in soon. So, DWS and Awan Contra, well, we work on that every day. Hi, Connie, how are you? You have been a great researcher. I just want to say thank you to all the great researchers.
Right. Yeah. I do too, and we do talk to the researchers all the time. We read the research. We literally go off the tips of the research. And that's why I was saying earlier that this is a team effort. There's nobody more important or less important. Everybody's doing their part. And so the researchers are amazing people that are doing what's best for our country. They're not doing it for any other reason. And that's why the focus on all the infighting is ridiculous. It needs to stop. We need to focus on the Awans, or aspiring in Congress.
Aspiring in Congress. Oh, and that's the last thing I'll say is I'm gonna do play. This is part of Bad News Bears, Berenstain Bears, CrowdStrike Bears. I'm not going to do playing cards for all the Bears, although it could become a popular trading card game. But I am going to do playlists for all the Bear teams, and a playlist for all the Russians. So we're going to match the Russians with the Bears, and then have the lineups, and then you could have this kind of fantasy league where if you had that hacking toolkit and you had that hacking toolkit, you're the Friedman team, and you got to go hack Trump Tower. How are you going to do that? Well, let's go into, let's see, where do we sell the most Suboxone? Oh, yeah, that's right, Spectrum Health. Let's do it in Grand Rapids. Let's use Umbridge. We'll have kind of a clue game of how these different hacks were done. But one good thing about Bob Mueller, I just heard 35. No, how many?
35 subpoenas.
35 subpoenas for Paul Manafort. I'm like, thank you, Bob Mueller. Half of them are going to be people already in our show. But I mean, let's go ahead and name the 35. Mueller's 35. I'll start. Deripaska, Prokhorov, Pinchuk.
I'm going to step away from the river.
Friedman. Well, the Zwan, the Dutch kid. Right. Who's the other guy at BP Oil?
What is it?
Papadopoulos is coming.
Right.
The Sergey Milchin is going to be in there. All the Russians. I mean, maybe this is a break. This is Mueller's chance to break away from the whole crime ring.
Could be.
I mean, if he could just say, rack them up.
He could.
From everything I've seen, it's like, no, it's actually, that would be somebody that you worked with, good example, the one we talked about was Pinchuk, who had given just a charity, which Trump's not involved in, $150,000
right.
in 2015. Oh, by the way, Pinchuk gave $13 million to the Clinton Foundation.
And there's a picture with Bob Mueller and Pinchuk, 2013, standing together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that came out. So,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I was on Twitter, so it's kind of complicated, I think.
Oh, my. So these 35 different subpoenas, either they subpoena, like, I think it's going to be maybe Eric Trump and Donald Jr. and then Ivanka and then maybe the wives and all that. 35 different people. It's just kind of amazing. So we'll be watching for that. That's all here in Chicago. Sweet home Chicago.